attention of attention. So it's to not only pay attention, but to know that you're paying attention. Not only know that you pay attention, but also know when you get distracted. Because we will all get distracted. So when we do the exercise, for example, you're going to know it. So what you really want to train with this is your ability to notice when you get distracted and then to bring the attention back to the breath as we use the breath as an anchor. So that's a key thing to give attention to understand is our ability to know that we're paying attention and to know when we are distracted. So let's explain a bit the steps, because we're I'm gonna explain a bit the mechanics, let's say, of the exercise, and then we're gonna get into a meditation, attention training, focus attention exercise. So we can start. We use the breath as the anchor, as I was saying. We can start by setting an intention. The intention will give you a direction in terms of the benefits that you want to get out of the practice. And then you're going to be directing our attention to the breath. What's going to happen, which inevitably happens, is that we're going to get distracted. Our important step then is to notice that we get distracted. And then when we notice, we need to let go of the distraction and then be able to bring your attention back to the breath. That's really the exercise. That's really, the steps that we need to consider, how it works. And you can think of this as different muscles in the brain. One muscle, it's really the one to notice the distraction. The other one is really to let go of the distraction. And the third one to bring the attention back. And these are all functions in the brain that you're going to be trained. And the more you be doing that, the more you will strengthen that ability. The more you create this neural pathways will become stronger, and the more you will be able to do it. And it's not about performance. It's not about, oh, I got it. I focus completely. No distraction. It's totally a wrong approach to it. It's really, what's important is really just the practice. And there will be days that your mind will be more at ease. It will be, in a way, more easy, fine. But there will be other days that, there's a lot going on, your mind is everywhere, and that's just what happens. And that's really when it's even more important, perhaps, that you invite yourself to train so that you can notice that your mind is wandering away, that you can train your ability to bring the attention back to what you are aiming for. So there is no way to get this wrong. Just sit and observe the mind using that as a framework. Is there any question in relation to these steps? All right? Yes.
How long do you do these exercises for?
Well, the practice itself, you can sit for 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour. It doesn't really, you can choose how much time you dedicate to it. How much time, if the question was how much time does a cycle of this...
when is it beneficial? If you do this for a few minutes every day,
all right.
Would you feel like it's actually helping?
Yeah, okay. So what some of these studies have been indicated is that even 10 minutes a day after 8 weeks have been measured that bring changes to the brain. That is a reference. But what is also said is that the amount of practice is also directly related to the benefits, to how much changes happens in the brain. One other thing that I didn't mention, just a moment, is this attitude of kindness and curiosity as well. This is really important, because curiosity is what's gonna direct your attention to, like Simone was describing there, this beginner's mind. Okay, how does it feel to be breathing? Where am I feeling the breath? And so this attitude of curiosity is what's gonna drive your attention to it. And then, of course, the attitude of kindness is quite important, to not be judging yourself too much and say, oh no, my mind's run away, that is not for me, or whatever, because that is what's going to be on the way. So you need to really be kind to yourself because that is gonna allow you, give you the space to then come to the practice.
Well, my question was on so when we did the exercise in the morning, Simone was guiding through the meditation, and yeah, I noticed a lot of meditation has this guidance, whether it's a physical person or listening to an audio or guiding you. So is it advisable to start with guidance and then doing it alone?
Yeah. No, this is a great question. I think the way I see it is that, especially for beginners, it's quite supportive to have guidance because that's going to help you to direct your attention. So it's going to give you a bit more support and structure. But as you get experienced, I would say that it's more about just sitting in silence and observing. So it's going to probably be requiring less guidance.
So will you suggest like an app that is good to use for novices?
Yeah, so we did there are quite a few apps these days, like Headspace, percent Happier, Calm, and all of that. I think they're all great. There's also Insight Timer, which is even a free app. We will not be specifically suggesting anything, but what we did with the previous group, we at the end we circulated just a list of options that people can consider.
And maybe just to add, in the 28-day challenge, you will get a number of different practices, so you can later on use them as well for yourself. So it's, it helps to have a guided one in the beginning. Especially helps with this notice distraction step, because then you hear the voice again, and go like, oh yeah, I was somewhere else with my thoughts. So it makes it easier.
Yeah. And before we get into the practice, let's just talk a little bit about the posture, because that's quite important as well. But the posture that we sit actually has an impact on the state of our mind as well. So the idea is that we sit in a position which is relaxed and alert, but we don't want to be kind of sleepy, but also we don't want to be too rigid. So we need to find a way which is kind of feels comfortable. I like the way being described by someone else, which is sit with dignity. That kind of is a way to describe it that can illustrate, how it should feel like. And so, I'll sit and just describe a bit of the elements that we should be paying attention to. So we'll be sitting in the chair, with our feet, to the floor. Be paying attention to how our sit bones are on the chair, the contact between sit bones and the floor. Sorry, sit bones in the chair and the feet on the floor. I think it's also good to pay attention to how we are sitting in terms of the chair, because some people may want to be laid back on the chair, but I find that it's more interesting to be not with contact on the back of the chair, so that you are a bit more alert and kind of alive. At the same time, the shoulders can be relaxed because we tend sometimes to be holding a bit of tension here. So just pay attention to the shoulders there, and no need to feel like too rigid, but just comfortable, that we are grounded, and from there that our spine can be straight and relaxed and alert. And our eyes can be closed, or it can be kind of gazing downwards, let's say to a feet or two, ahead of you. That's okay. And I think that's pretty much it. Any questions before we get started with the practice? Right. So we're guiding you through our practice now. And at the end of the practice, I'll be ringing the bell. And so let's just do it then. So now we will try out this meditation process that we just went over. So start by finding a posture that feels both relaxed and alert. You may want to have your feet on the floor, your hands on your thighs. You may close your eyes or keep them slightly open, looking downward, a few feet in front of you with a soft focus. Allowing the spine to lift and the shoulders to relax. So begin by connecting with your intention in doing this practice. You may want to develop healthier ways to relate to stress. You may want to be more focused, or be a more skillful leader, or just to be at your best for others. Or you may not have a clear intention. You may just be interested in learning more about meditation practice, or about yourself. Now bring your attention to the breath. You may notice a movement of the abdomen or chest, or the sensation of air passing at the tip of the nose, or a sensation in the throat, or a sense of the whole body breathing. Whatever the sensation is most vivid for you, just allow your attention to rest there. For the rest of the practice, think of this sensation as your anchor point, your anchor breath. Whenever the mind wanders, bring it back to this feeling of breathing. Breathing in, breathing out. We explore counting each exhale from 1 to 10. If you notice your mind wander, just come back to 1. Can you be curious and kind with yourself, even as you bring your attention back to your breath? If the attention wanders, as soon as you notice, simply return to this awareness of the breath, gently, kindly. Allowing the breath to be a kind of home base, or anchor for awareness. Thoughts coming, thoughts going. No need to push away or chase after. If attention wanders, simply return right here, right now. Now let's sit quietly for a couple minutes, making just the right amount of effort to follow the breath. Or just sit here, being aware of whatever arises to you. Gently open your eyes, returning awareness to the room, stretching any way you like. And I invite you to not think so much of the practice being over, but what it is like to continue to feel anchored in the present moment as you move on to a conversation. Okay. What did you notice? Difficult? So you notice your mind going all different directions. Or was it to bring the attention to the breath? Did you notice this direction?
For me, it was much easier to focus on the noise of the air conditioning on my breath.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, huh? I mean, it's just a different technique using another anchor to connect your attention to something which is happening in the moment.
Maybe just one analogy that you often hear about is that when you start meditation, your thoughts are like a waterfall. They just keep coming and coming, and then maybe when you meditate a bit longer, it becomes a river, fast river first, slower river, and in the end it gets quieter. So it is part of it of the training to actually let this waterfall come on you for a moment and always try to get back into your object of attention, which is breath or something else. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
I found particularly interesting the fact that one step of that you know that your mind's been wandering off, and then this particular step of bringing it back, which is not perceived as a mistake, but as a part of the meditation process, is quite helpful.
Yeah.
But about self-consciousness, oh God, lost again, come back. So I started to not associate this feeling of failure to the process, but having this integration to the process as a key element to
And it's the most
to
important
adapt.
part. It's actually when you do this, like if you would do gym, it's when you put the tension on. This is what you train.
Yeah. Now this is perfect, and indeed, this is described by Joseph Goldstein. Is one of the guys who has loads of experience, who brought all this practice to the US like 40, 50 years ago. There is a nice interview on YouTube by him with Dan Harris, the guy from the video. He talks exactly about that. It's the most important moment of the practice. In the past, I think a lot of people were with the wrong perception of failure, when the mind gets distracted. But the opposite, what is the most important practice of the moment of the practice is really the moment you notice you are distracted. That's really the awakening moment of the practice. And that's really what you want to train. That's really the training of this meta attention that we're talking about. And that's really what's going to be helpful for when times are difficult and when things are challenging, when there is a lot going on. And that's really what you want to train.
Like I can see what you're saying. I think that my response afterwards is it makes me feel tired. Yeah. So I will feel tired when I came in this morning. So these two exercises afterwards, I feel really quite tired. Maybe my mind's working very hard to practice those things. I find it quite tiring.
I can take this one. It's a very typical comment that comes in this training, and what I can tell you is, it's part of your self-awareness. You tap into how you actually feel in this moment. So you notice it more than you would notice it if you were now running, having your work.
Yeah, so I think I would have two observations. One, as you described it, which perhaps is just becoming more aware of your state. But two, also is the quality of how you're practicing, because it has not to do with control of kind of forcing, but quite the opposite. It's really has the quality of opening, of really resting. It's about resting the attention even. That's how the script is describing that. Because if you bring that quality of kind of grasping, then it doesn't work. Yeah. And in terms of application, when do you think this can be useful? We were talking about this integrated practice and more formal practice, and how certain regular daily practice can bring benefits, those changes in the brain or whatever. But how do you think this kind of practice can be useful, both as a dedicated practice, but also if you think of the three breaths that you're talking about, how can this be useful if you're talking about this application in general? Do you think of any specific situation that it would be helpful?
Yeah, I already decided that when I go for a walk, or whatever, then I'll use the application.
Yeah, cool.
Because it's, I think that's going to be easy also to get into the mindful stage.
Yeah, so I think it's important to think of the formal dedicated practice, but indeed it's nice to also think of opportunities that we have along the day to somehow incorporate this, because our breath is a portable thing, right? We always with it. So if we're thinking of a moment that you're kind of waiting on the line, or waiting for the bus, or waiting for whatever, then why waiting, just waiting? I mean, why not just using that opportunity as a moment to check in, or maybe just connect to the breath and just practice the exercise of training the attention.
That's a great one. It's that really simple. And lots of folks are already doing it, but before you go to sleep, just noticing all the stuff that runs through your mind before you try and sleep, and then you're lying there awake, going, oh my gosh, this week I'm going to do this and this. I have to bring the kids to school. I want to go sick. How am I going to manage it? Oh, my husband's out there because he has all these other meetings. But you need your rest. And you need to recover yourself from the day and the week ahead. So I think it would be a great one for myself personally. Yeah, take the time and just focus on the breath. Then acknowledge or notice the distractions as you go through the cycle. Do that to-do list, maybe some worries, park them, and focus on the breath again. And then try it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And there are also some other practices like the body scan we do later that a lot of people practice before sleeping, actually.
I think it's more of the snow globe analogy, where what we're trying to do is we're trying to put the snowflakes down and they want to rush up again.
Yeah, and the analogy is nice because indeed you're not going to be able to put them down. If you want to force them, it's kind of all them get it doesn't really work. I mean, it's really just letting, giving the space and allowing to settle. That's how the mind works.
Okay, time for one more micro practice, and that's actually one that you can use in your team or in any meeting, especially when you